So clearly technology helps our students and us be more creative. Students can make videos, they can create graphics, they can make music, they can do all kinds of things. They can also think critically. They can establish or they can look for just about anything they want to find, and it's up to us to teach them how to analyze that information. So thinking critically about a whole variety of topics is something they can do. They can also collaborate. So we're using, and we can collaborate with them. We're using Today's Meet right now, which is a very powerful technology tool for collaboration. There's also communication. Students can communicate in a very powerful way. I'm thinking of websites, right? Basically, the internet is a medium for communication, and students can do that in a very rich and powerful way. There's also assessment. Yesterday, you heard from the Director of Assessment, Research, and Accountability, Bobby Cannon. And when I think about assessment, I think about feedback. Technology gives us the promise of providing kids with real-time feedback. And it gives us that holy grail of differentiation, meeting the kids where their needs are, and personalizing instruction. I think technology offers that as well. Classroom management. There's classroom management tools that we can use that are technology-based. And there's productivity, right? Technology should make us more productive and more efficient as well. And of course, digital citizenship. We have to talk about digital citizenship. So for the duration of this last part of the general session, I'm going to be focusing on those 4 C's, those first 4 C's you see over there: creativity, collaboration, communication, and critical thinking. And I'm also going to be focusing on digital citizenship. And this is driven out of data that we have. A lot of the initiatives, perhaps all of the initiatives in the district, are couched in data. So every year we survey to see how we're doing with our initiatives. Educational technology now is a huge initiative in the district. And these are couched, like I said, in data. And I know it's not showing up entirely clearly, but what this is, I mean, you can see the colors, right? And what we're looking at here is called the CASE framework. And the CASE framework is kind of the boilerplate or the header information for the data set from the Brightbyte survey, which this district does to measure its implementation of technology in the district. And so the Brightbytes data presents this thing called the CASE framework. The CASE framework stands for classroom, which is the C. And you can see there's a score there, right, represented by that color wheel. And then access, which is another score that we get, represented by that green color wheel. And then skills and environment, so CASE. And if you look at that, so take a moment to look at that CASE framework and those color wheels. It's giving us a direction. It's giving us how we need to focus our efforts in regards to technology. Yeah, or alternatively, probably the best thing to do, because I think the visual's a little low, is to go to the back channel, click on the link for the presentation. So if you go to the back channel, I think if you go to the bottom, probably the last entry there is going to be this presentation. Okay, so let's get back to the CASE framework. And I can talk about it if you can't see it so clearly. I'll talk about it a little bit. But in any case, the CASE framework points out, I think that, okay. The CASE framework points out that the classroom domain is the one that, I think the classroom domain is probably the most important, right? It's the teaching and learning that happens in the classroom. And that is where we need to focus our efforts. And so within that, if you look into the subdomain, if you look in the subdomains for this, there's 2 subdomains that really stand out. And they are digital citizenship and the 4 C's. And you can see those were represented also in those 8 focus areas that I talked about earlier. So we're going to spend some time talking about digital citizenship. And the good news is this isn't new for us. We've been at this for a couple years. And we've shown growth. In fact, I'm proud to announce that this year, for the first time, we were recognized for our efforts in digital citizenship by Common Sense Education. Common Sense recognizes districts who have innovative practices in digital citizenship instruction to their students. And last year we earned this, so hats off to us and hats off to the district. This is going to continue. You will hear more about digital citizenship. We have district-wide initiatives. Our goal is that every year all of our students get at least 2 lessons in digital citizenship. Okay? Of course, even though we got that recognition, there's still work to be done. And I'm going to use a quote here from someone perhaps very famous to help tell that story. Was it Roosevelt that said that? Okay. All right, so true. You know, one of the challenges our students have in regards to digital citizenship is being able to discern and evaluate the information they find online. And I think this slide really gets at that. So this is certainly one focus area for us. So it's incumbent upon all of us to take that on and make sure, we have this tremendous resource, the web, the internet, these tools, but to make sure that our students are also using them in a way that sourcing and finding information that's valuable and critically analyzing that so that it not only is it that it makes sense, but they're looking at stuff that's true and verifiable. Do you ever, when you're teaching, or when you're teaching, it's always good, I think, to also show non-examples. So here's where we don't want our students. This is what we don't want our students to be like.
Where'd you hear that?
The internet.
And you believed it?
Yeah. They can't put anything on the internet that isn't true.
Where'd you hear that? The internet.
Oh, look. Here comes my date. I met him on the internet. He's a French model.
Bonjour.
All right, so non-examples are powerful, right? And that's not what we want our students to turn into. All right, and all kidding aside, there's some serious implications for misuse of digital tools and social media, and we're all aware of that. And I've pulled some headlines here, and you've probably seen these. We need to also protect our kids. We don't want our kids to undergo any of this. This is traumatic. Some of these, I think at least 3 of these headlines are from incidences that happened in California, some of them not too far from here. And we want to make sure that not only are we protecting the kids who are on the receiving end of cyberbullying, but we're also keeping our kids who might engage in that activity from doing it. Just yesterday, as I was setting up, there were some students outside the room. They're going, oh, this is what she said to me online, and this, and this, and this, and this. It's happening all the time. We don't always catch it. We don't always capture it in the headlines, but it's happening all the time. Okay? My kids, my 11-year-old, my 13-year-old, they've been exposed to this. Okay, so this is real, and it's important that we prepare our kids to deal with not only the good, but also the bad of technology. Okay, so the reality is, right, that our students, it's not just a list of don'ts. We don't want, it's like, don't go on Twitter, don't go on Facebook, don't go on Google+, don't go on YouTube. Well, we might be able to say that at school, right, if we wanted to, but in reality, our kids are going to do this no matter what. They're going to do this on their personal time, and you know what? They're going to do this in their work lives too. If we truly want to prepare our kids, one of our goals you heard yesterday was to prepare our kids to be not only lifelong learners, but also to be college and career ready. If we're going to prepare them to be career ready, they need to know how to navigate the web, navigate social media in a productive way, right? We have to teach them to use these tools productively and positively, right? Overwhelm the bad with the good. And they can do that with social media. The next story I'm going to share with you is a story that speaks to that. It's overwhelming the bad. Actually, it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful story of using technology to connect.
I consider Paige like a long-lost sister that I never had that I should have had. The crazy thing is, me and Paige have been so close, but we actually have never met.
Oh, this was the first time that I held Sarah.
My mom was pregnant with me and just found out that I had one arm at 20 weeks, I think. She wanted to find someone else that was experiencing the same thing. So she went on a website and found Teresa and Paige.
When me and Sarah were born, our parents were sending letters and pictures to each other and stuff, so they became close.
And then we kind of lost touch because Teresa had 2 more kids. When I was 8, I needed someone there that could understand everything about me, and I was like, I want to find Paige.
My mum got an email from her mum, and apparently they had been looking for us for 3 years. We started emailing first. I asked her one day if she had Skype. What time is it for you?
I think when I first saw Paige, it was like I've seen a mirrored image of me.
When I saw Sarah, it was kind of like, oh, this is how people see me.
We'll talk about boys and life and compare things.
She doesn't really worry about what other people think about her. She can walk around happily in a short-sleeved top. She helped me a lot and gave me a lot of confidence. There weren't less challenges after I met her, it's just that I wasn't going through the challenges alone anymore.
And I moved the brush or I moved my finger.
And so I moved my finger.
Yeah.
I could tell Sarah things that I wouldn't be able to tell my friends. I trust her with my life. We have been so close for 8 years, but thousands of miles away from each other. We definitely wouldn't be very close if it wasn't for Skype and how it's brought us together.
Some best friends come and go. I feel like Paige will always be my best friend no matter what. It's crazy that we've never met. We've always dreamed of it, but it's just never happened. But I can't believe it. I don't think it's really sunk in.
I'm really nervous. No, it doesn't seem real. 5 minutes and 34 seconds.
You're so beautiful. Sorry.
I finally get to hug you.
I'm sure we will always find time for each other because it's one of those friendships that you don't find twice.
We're like two needles in a haystack that just found each other.
Okay, so that gets me every time. I was kind of choking up beforehand. But it's powerful, right? Technology we can overwhelm the bad with the good. And clearly there's a good here, okay? Powerful good. All right, so the next part, we're going to head into talking about the 4 C's. So digital citizenship is clearly important, and we want to reinforce that in our classrooms. But also the other area, and there's other subdomains here to talk about as well, but the 4 C's are really important. And in a moment, I'm going to ask that you re-engage with your partner. Before you leave here today, I want to make sure that you know the 4 C's. So there's going to be like a low-stress pop quiz, okay? So be ready for that. That's coming up. So I just want you to be able to recite what the 4 C's are. So the 4 C's, again, are creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and communication. Creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, and what? Communication, right? Okay, so I heard it. So 4 C's, creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. All right, so the challenge, though, for us is how do we reinforce these skills? And these skills are often referred to as 21st century skills, but really we're 20 years almost into the 21st century, so these are really life skills. Okay, so let's just call them life skills. That's what they are. There's a nice video here that I'm going to share with you that really talks about reinforcing those in the classroom. Like, what does creativity look like in the classroom? I've already given a couple examples, but this video is going to do a better job. Collaboration, critical thinking, and communication. What does that look like? So there's some nice examples here that hopefully will inspire me and hopefully will inspire you as well.
You may have heard of the 4 C's for 21st century learning: critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. But how do these skills affect your teaching practice and student learning? And how does technology play a role in building these skills? Let's take a step back. In 2002, the Partnership for 21st Century Skills, a coalition between the business community, education leaders, and policymakers, created the framework for 21st century learning. This framework presents a holistic view of 21st century teaching and learning. Within the context of core knowledge instruction, students must learn the 4 C's. These competencies are essential skills for students to thrive in work and in life. Let's take a closer look at how digital tools can help foster these skills in students. Critical thinking refers to students' abilities to analyze, interpret, evaluate, make decisions, and solve problems. For example, take a high school social studies class in which students are comparing society's use of fossil fuels in the past and in the present. In addition to online research, students can use video conferencing to conduct first-hand interviews with field experts. Students can use graphic organizers to organize and illustrate their findings, compare and contrast their data, and share with one another. Communication refers to students' ability to share information while expressing their thoughts and opinions clearly to others. Communication also requires strong listening and evaluation skills in order to aid in collaboration. It includes verbal, written, and multimedia messages. For example, consider a 5th grade class in which students are learning about forest fires in their region. A local fire chief asks a question on a community site about fire prevention efforts. Students could post short written or audio responses to the issue, thereby engaging in an online conversation. Students learn to articulate their thoughts in a clear way while gaining a sense of agency for having a voice around larger community issues. Collaboration refers to students' ability to work with others to accomplish a goal while being flexible and sharing group responsibility. For example, an 8th grade science class could work in small teams with other nearby middle school students to investigate local environmental issues. Students can assume different roles within their teams depending on their talents and interests. For instance, some can make observations, some can record data, and others can share out the results. Creativity includes abilities such as brainstorming, refining ideas, being responsive to ideas from others, and making ideas tangible and useful to others. For example, a 3rd grade class might work together to brainstorm innovative ways to address recycling. Students decide to create a recycling campaign in the school, including making a public service announcement video for an upcoming assembly. You can see from these examples that technology, when used strategically, can really enhance how you support the 4 C's in your classroom. Digital tools can help students think critically, communicate, collaborate, and be creative. And we know that these skills help foster higher order thinking, which is crucial for 21st century learning. So, what do the 4 C's look like for teaching and learning in your classroom?
Okay, so I thought that video is nice because it highlights the 4 C's and gives some practical applications of what they are. Now, that's not to say that the 4 C's don't happen without technology. Of course they do. My dad, who is a 40-year educator, 40-year world history and US history teacher, he was using the 4 C's, even though if he thought every piece of technology was PowerPoint. Okay, he was using technology. He was just doing it in a different way. Okay, but the point is, technology helps us amplify those 4 C skills, those life skills, right? Students can be more creative, we can be more collaborative with them, they can communicate in very powerful and rich ways, and of course they can think critically about anything that they want to think about. Okay, so we have some tools for you that are going to help explore those 4 C's, and maybe hopefully will help prod some thinking about some ideas you might be able to incorporate. So for the next 10 or so minutes, I'm going to invite you to explore with your critical friend again, your partner, at your table, some of those 4 C's, and I'm going to model that for you. But if you want to get a head start on that, if you go to that address right there, and if we could put that address in the back channel. So when Paul puts that address in the back channel, you don't even have to type it in. You could just click on it. It's going to be at the very top of the list, provided no one else is contributing to that back channel. So you can either type that in or go to the Today's Meet back channel and pull that up. And then once you get there, I'm going to guide you through an activity where we're going to dive into those 4 C's. There's going to be failures. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be times where you're just like, oh my goodness, what's going on? The audio's not working, or that app's not working, or my kids aren't all getting on that same page. They can't see the link. The resolution for the slides isn't clear because the room's lighter than I thought it was going to be. You know, it's not as dark as I thought it was going to be. So there's going to be challenges. And you're going to confront that probably with technology at some point. You're going to confront that when you try to implement some of the strategies that you're learning about, GRRCM. You're going to learn about a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of new things. And there's going to be challenges. And my point is, and the point I want to make to you, and the point I want to leave you with, is that persevere. Use those challenges as opportunities to iterate and get better. Fail forward. Okay, so people, I've heard for years, failure is an option. Failure is not an option, but it is. The best thinking comes out of failure, I think. Success comes out of failure. If you fail forward and you challenge yourself to use that as an opportunity to learn more, It becomes an opportunity. So I have up here, I have a graphic that shows, and it's going to start again in a moment. This shows the lunar program in the United States. And you can look at the dates, the launch dates right here. I've been reading about this recently, and it's amazing how many failures the lunar program, NASA's lunar program had. And if you keep going down, it's scrolling down through the dates, it becomes more successful over time. Until ultimately, in the late 60s and the early 70s, what do we find? All those failures built on themselves to a point of success, such that we're at the end, in the early 70s, we have a man on the moon, and we've had tremendous success. So remember this, in all these new initiatives, it's probably overwhelming in some sense, right? And there's going to be challenges. We saw challenges this morning, right? Challenges with the presentation. You might encounter some of those yourself. But know that if you use those as an opportunity to get better, you persevere, fail forward, you're going to have a great year. Okay? And I look forward to working with you for the rest of today. I look forward to working with you this year and beyond. Thank you very much.